The January to December budgeting cycle is something that many analysts have agreed that to be a step in the right direction. But my question really to you is, has this further helped implementation of our budgeting or our budget cycle in its entirety?
I mean, this boils down to how early the executive is able to present, its budget before the National Assembly, and how early the National Assembly is able to pass it into law. I know before 2000, it used to take up until, the middle of the following fiscal year before budgets were passed. That 6 months after budgets should have, begun implementation, that those budgets are passed. But from 2001, we were able to move it back to the January-December window. But we've seen that, in the last 2 fiscal years, that window has been extended to at least 4 or 5 months, in the following year for the implementation of CAPEX. And it makes it very difficult for you to track, the implementation, of government projects. It makes it difficult for accountability. If, when you are supposed to have retired the budget for the previous year, you are sort of implementing it concurrently with a different budget. So when you are making disbursements, what goes to what? These are things that, that can become, really confusing at some point. So it's good that we run that January to December year window, for each budget year, so that budgets are properly retired and, monies that have been spent are properly accounted for. And people who have, misallocated funds or stolen funds, can be brought to account. But all of this, is made, very difficult when you have, these sort of distortions in your regular fiscal calendar year.
I tell you, I totally think along that line too. Subsidy removal is what has brought up the wage increase, and of course, it's been confirmed. I think workers are getting their pay, the 35,000 as promised by the federal government. But in your thoughts, how will all of this and maybe the palliatives that have already been introduced, how will it help cushion the effect of this subsidy removal at this time? Because government seems to be firm, not going back on their words.
I mean, like you called it, these are palliatives. They are short-term measures, right, to help some people, cope better with the subsidy removal due to some of these shocks. But they are not, lasting solutions. The effects would wear out, before you know it. And that's why it's important that some of the structural issues that have plagued the Nigerian economy are things that need to be addressed headlong for people, for Nigerians to get, the real cushion from, the twin headwinds from both the subsidy removal, and the unification of the exchange rate. As you have seen with inflation, even if the federal government has been able to stabilize the price of oil, the price of PMS, in the last 2-3 months. But if there's an upward trend, like, the global energy outlook has forecasted for 2024, owing to the Russia-Ukraine war and the current war between Israel and Palestine, or Hamas as the case may be, you expect an upward price, an upward increase in the price of crude, and that should, impact the price of PMS. So for how long would the federal government be able to maintain, the price at the pumps? And so what it means is invariably the lives of the average Nigerian needs to be made better to be able to afford, increases, whether it's in energy prices or food, as the case may be. So we need more, movements towards, real structural changes for Nigerians to actually really feel the effects of these cushions, as the case may be. And I know that there have been some attempts, by the federal government to move in this direction, but a lot of these things have to be done a lot more quicker.
a lot more quicker. Now, borrowing and generating money internally, of course, IGR, many will say that seems to be the way to go. We must start to look inwards and reduce this drive for foreign loans. What do you make of this, one, and what do you think the states can do to support government at this time in revenue generation? That is key if we are to address or reduce, because debt service is still rising.
And it will continue to rise, in as much as your fiscal deficits continue to increase. And that's why we need to really have, very, very serious conversations around budget credibility. How realistic are our budgets? If you look at the MTEF, for instance, the federal government has projected to more than double what it earned in 2023, right? Now, if it's unable to do that, it means what it had projected as fiscal deficits, would increase. And then, how do you finance your deficits? It's by borrowing. And if you look at, how the federal government has funded its fiscal deficits in the last 7-8 years, it was primarily through overdrafts from the CBN through the ways and means. And this government has said that it would outlaw, that means of borrowing. So we're waiting to see how it would deal with revenue shortfalls. And that's why I think, from the federal government to the states, it's important that, we begin to cut our coats according to our material, right? So that you don't overbloat the budget. And then you now need to rely heavily on borrowings, now finance, this budget. Because, what's on the receiving end of all of this is service delivery. Once you are not able to meet your revenue targets, it means you are not able to spend on your planned programs and activities. What that means is that Nigerians will not be able to fly good roads. Nigerians will not be able to have, quality healthcare. Nigerians will not be able to have access to quality education. Farmers that need farming inputs will not be able to get support from the government, to be able to, plant and harvest, during their seasons. And, the resultant effect is poverty at the end of the day. So governments need to realistically, accurately project what they have the capacity to raise, as revenues within any fiscal year. If I bring it down to the states, you had asked how the states can support the federal government. Yes, ease of doing business is what should be at the front and center of any subnational that is looking to, make any headways moving forward, right? People need to be able to do businesses in these states, meaning that the right infrastructure has to be in place, whether it's road, whether it's power, whether it's security. The issues around the multiplicity of taxes, would need to be addressed. Then heavy investments, prioritization of investments in human capital development, with specific focus on health, education, social protection, and water, sanitation, and hygiene are things that states, need to prioritize moving forward.